Hello, everybody. This is John Arns with the Business Freedom Formula. Today, our guest is Patricia Scimone, who is going to talk to us about a couple of the books she's written. And I'm sure you're going to find the second one that she talks about extremely interesting. Patricia, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. So you told me you wrote two books, one dealing with seniors. So let's start with that one.
Sure. A few years back, I wrote a book called The Gray Divorce Revolution. And one of the reasons why that book came to mind is because I was in the process of divorcing, and I had done a tremendous amount of research even before I started writing the book. And I realized that there were many women throwing in the towel. And I just couldn't understand why so many women were in the process of divorcing. And I came to find out that almost 70% of all senior divorces were initiated by the women.
I have recently read that somewhere in the last month or so, and I thought that number was really eye-opening.
It was indeed to me as well. And so one of the reasons why I wrote the book was because I felt that everyone, both men and women, needed to understand what was happening. Truly, this was a revolution. And so many people did not realize that it was the women that were initiating the divorces. And so I did some research to find out why. In addition to that, I also have the book is actually set up in three parts. It's a resource guide more than it is anything else. And it explains what gray divorce is,
Okay.
why it is so prevalent, and the things that you can do moving forward if you decide that you would like to spend some time with yourself, getting to know who you are once again after being in a long-term relationship for 20, 30, 40, even 50 some odd years. People were
Sure.
in the process of divorcing, amazingly enough. And the kinds of things that you can do moving forward, maybe where you wanted to live, if you wanted to relocate, the kinds of things women were looking for in a man at this stage of your life, the kinds of things that men were looking for in women. It's a rather interesting book. It goes into a little bit of everything. Not so much finance, but just about everything else.
Okay.
Um, and so I felt that that was rather interesting, and that's the first book. And let me say this even before we move forward into the second book.
Okay.
You know, many of the times people write, people like myself write because we have a message,
Uh-huh.
because there's something important that we really feel might be of helpfulness. Um, I'm sure many people do not end up knowing that writing books, you don't make any money. Thankfully, I've had a career for over 40 years as a real estate broker. And so that's how I make my living, not from selling these two books, which makes pennies. Um,
Sure.
but people write like myself because they feel that they not only can impart some information, good information, but also maybe help some other people that are out there that have gone through the same experiences, the same issues, in order for them to maybe take away a couple of the steps that might have um, hindered them the way that it might have hindered other people. So
Sure.
the second book that I wrote just recently. It's
Mhm.
called When the Devil Can't Reach You, He Sends a Narcissist. And I wrote that book because of the experience, unfortunate experience that I had. Um, and I also feel that there's both men and women out there that don't understand. Narcissism has become very trendy now. And according to many people, everyone's a narcissist. Well, that could very well be true. Many of us have narcissistic tendencies, although, in order for you to actually be labeled someone who has NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, you need 5 out of the 9 traits that are in the DSM book, which is a book that's used by professionals in order for a patient to be labeled, so to speak,
Okay,
someone who has NPD. So the book is very interesting in that um, first of all, it gives you an understanding of what actually a narcissist is, because, as I said, so many people throw it around.
right,
And then the different issues that are at hand. And one of the reasons why I wrote the book, and the biggest reason why I wrote the book, was because I felt that in a courtroom situation, and many people that are in the process of divorcing a narcissist, um, the judges and the attorneys really don't have a true understanding of narcissism. Maybe a family court judge has more so than another judge, but especially a civil judge. But the fact is that many of us have been re-traumatized just having to stand before a judge who really doesn't have an understanding of narcissism. And they're looking at a person and they're not seeing the person that's in front of them um, in its true sense, because their mask is not off. One
okay.
of the characteristics of someone who is a narcissist is the fact that they're very charming, they're very engaging. Um, and they come across as being some of the nicest people that you've ever met, covert narcissists in particular, and there's different types of narcissists as well. And the covert narcissist is one of the most dangerous because they come across as being so charming, so gentlemanly, so sweet that no one really sees their true nature except the person behind closed doors.
Mm,
And so, one of the things that I'm hoping to accomplish by writing this book and getting it out there is the fact that I'm hoping that people will send this book to their law enforcement, to judges, to attorneys. You want a good Christmas gift this year? Send it to someone that you know that's either in law enforcement or justice, because I do believe that it's very important that they have an understanding of who is in front of them. And the only way they're going to do that is either by doing this where it's a slow process, or having mandates for um, education on what's called a cluster B personality disorder.
hmm. Wow. Um, that getting that kind of information out to, judges, attorneys, law enforcement is will be a challenge. And
It,
but if enough people who know it know people in there and can get them to read it, and then they have the opportunity to pass it on to colleagues. Um, there's a possibility. I mean, there have been many what I would call kind of like grassroots campaigns to get things, to get information or to get things changed. And there's no reason why yours wouldn't work either. No.
Well, I've started,
Hmm.
and of course, the process is slow.
Hmm.
And, it takes quite a bit of time to make these changes. I've sent the book out to state attorneys' offices. Some of them have been returned, but that's okay because, I'm hoping that someone that knows someone that knows someone will be able to help me in making sure that when anyone is before um, the justice system, that something be done so people can see beyond the person that they're looking at in front of them.
Hmm. Yeah, I can certainly see that because you're right. The mask doesn't come off with somebody standing in a courtroom for an hour.
Absolutely not. Uh,
Um,
it's it's if you haven't been through this type of situation, it's almost impossible to understand it.
mhm,
And that's why it's so important that the people that are making these decisions for people that have been traumatized through domestic violence or rape, they say that Ted Bundy was very narcissistic, and many serial killers
mhm,
were very narcissistic because they were so very charming.
mhm,
They charmed their way into, oh, I'm not well, I have a broken leg, and they were wearing a whatever or carrying a cane, and so many empathetic people were out there and sympathetic people trying to be of helpfulness, and unfortunately got caught in their webs
mhm,
and were even killed.
mhm,
So the fact is there's actually a woman that I follow on LinkedIn who every time a situation has come up and a woman has been killed in this area of Australia, she absolutely positively puts it out there. Remember this person's name. This is the 45th person that was killed, and this is how she was murdered, and so forth.
mhm.
Um, there are big time issues, and we are not addressing them. And the violence just seems to be getting worse and worse. I mean, violence, I believe, and I haven't really researched this, so it's not something that I can honestly say I have backed by something that I've read.
Mhm.
But I do believe that we are becoming an angrier and angrier society. And unfortunately, that creates violence. And we already have plenty of it already.
Mhm.
But I believe it's getting to a point where so many of us see it day in and day out that it's not even looked upon as
Mhm.
being something that's of concern anymore.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so,
it's almost like you become numb to it. It's like, here we go again.
yes. Absolutely.
Like,
So my hope is, John, that I find people that will be of helpfulness to me. And as I said, if there's a judge in your life or an attorney in your life or someone in law enforcement that could be of helpfulness. I mean, the book is on Amazon. It's a ebook, so you can end up getting it immediately, and it's a whole big 4.99.
wow.
Yes, wow is right. And I did that for a very particular reason. As I said, you're not going to make a fortune from the book in the first place. I'm not looking to make money from this. I'm looking to get my message out. I'm looking to make sure that if there's someone out there that's in the process of going through some of the things that I went through, that I could help. I'd be delighted to do that in any small or big way that I can.
Yeah, that's I can see that. that is, I would say, extremely important.
It
Um,
is indeed for me, especially, and for, as I said, a number of people that are in the process of going through some really horrific things. And unfortunately, you see it and you hear it every single day. At least I do. I'm on a number of different websites and social media sites about narcissism, and I try to really give people as much information as I possibly can. And I have some clients that we have discussions, and it's rather amazing some of the things that they have been through. And I'm also affiliated with a domestic violence program, and you wouldn't even believe some of the stories because they're that outrageous
yeah,
that we need help. We definitely do. We need help.
I can see that, and you're right, because I mean, well, you're in Florida, right?
That's correct. I'm in
And
Sarasota, Florida.
yes. And I can't remember where Broward County is.
Broward is a little, that's Miami, Broward
Okay.
County.
So you probably that recently in the news there were a number of police officers fired
Yes,
because they didn't take this woman's pleas seriously.
yes.
Yeah. And I was just outraged by that all of these people, along with laws that are supposed to protect her, everybody dropped the ball. I mean, everybody, like 12, 13 people were either fired or suspended or put on demoted, whatever. I mean, how many people can just drop the ball like that in a situation like that when we all know, or we all should know if we're paying attention, about how things can happen with violence against women? It makes no sense to me.
Well, I hate to say this, but it happens every single day.
I know it does. It's disgusting to me. Um,
I absolutely agree. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important that it starts to really be part of some of the things that need changing.
mhm,
And to me, it just makes perfect sense to try and help people to do that. By the way, John, I'm not criticizing the justice system, I'm not criticizing law enforcement. I know that there's many very wonderful people out there doing fabulous things
mhm,
to try and help society. But unfortunately, I think we need more, and
mhm,
I think we need more education. I know that when I was on the board of directors for NAMI Pasco, we had it's called CIT, it's Crisis Intervention Team Training for Law Enforcement. And we'd end up going before, 40, 60, even 80 law enforcements to speak to them about mental illness at the time, because that's what NAMI is involved in. And I think that education is very, very important, and it shouldn't be on law enforcement as much as it should be um, in the justice system. I think that that's really where much of this needs to have more education.
sure, sure. Yeah, because I think that the more we understand, um, I know that in a lot of cases, I think here in California, that in some cases where you have someone, you have this homeless person who's maybe acting in an irrational manner, that in a lot of cases, social workers go out there and not police officers. And,
Wow.
a couple of times driving around, I've seen police officers interacting with somebody who's obviously living on the street, who probably either has a mental illness or a drug addiction. And I watch those officers standing there and realize that I don't think they have the right tool set. Not that there's, not that they haven't had some training, but you wouldn't send a social worker to a bank robbery, so don't send a cop to it's the tool set isn't right,
Bingo. You
and
got it.
the more tools we can put in your toolbox, the more effective you're going to be. And
Absolutely.
and I also realize, as I'm sure you do, that not every officer is cut out for that.
Absolutely.
Right. There are those that can do it, who can do it and probably do it naturally.
Yes.
And there are those that are just, they're never going to be able to do it. And that's okay, because that's their personality.
Yes.
And I'm wondering though, how many of them don't want that book out because it describes them.
Well, actually, it's funny because a person who has narcissistic tendencies are people that are in high places,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because they need that admiration.
Sure.
They need to feel important. And I'm not saying just because someone likes to be admired or someone needs to feel important,
Mm-hmm.
that that labels them a
Mm-hmm.
narcissist, because you really do have to have a true understanding of what NPD is. And as I said, many of us have a trait or two. But in
Mm-hmm.
order for you to be full blown, you need 5 of the 9 traits.
5 of the 9.
Yes.
Now, does your book go into what those 9 traits are?
Yes, it
Okay.
does. And in addition, if someone is interested in looking it up, you can easily just put in NPD, um, 9 traits, and it'll end up taking it directly from the book that psychiatrists, psychologists, the professionals
Right.
look to find the traits that they could then assess their patient to diagnose properly.
Mm.
By the way, most people that have NPD will
Mm.
not go and see anyone that's professional to be diagnosed. So there's many, many people walking around, both men and women, walking around that have NPD that have never been diagnosed.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they're not going to be, because the sad truth is that um, they have what's called anosognosia. And what that is they have no concept of their illness. So if you don't have a concept that you're ill, why would you go and see someone?
Right. Exactly. And yeah. I mean, I don't go to the doctor unless I feel like I need to,
Exactly.
you know.
It's the very same thing. You're not going to go and get diagnosed for something that you don't feel is wrong.
Hmm. And I think too, when we grow up with ourselves and this is how we are, we just assume that this is me. And we're
Yes.
comfortable with it in most cases because we've lived with it our whole life.
Well,
And
there's many,
we don't
sorry.
know any different unless we're really observant and can go, wow, I am really out of line with all of this. But that takes, I think, a whole other skill set that.
Yes, a tremendous amount of self-awareness that
Mhm.
most people don't know or don't want to know. And that's what the unfortunate part is. And many of the people that have these illnesses, they come from childhood traumas. Uh, Many of the times their parents might have been narcissistic to a point where they may have had NPD, and they've passed the torch along to
Sure.
their children. And unless their children are once again self-aware, they're not going to do anything about it whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
I'm sure you can, because it's all around us all
Yeah.
the
It's all,
time.
yeah. And it's typical human behavior as well. So, yeah.
Yes,
I can
indeed.
see that. Well, you already answered one of my questions as to where people could find your books, and by saying on Amazon, that'll be great. When I post this video, I will include a link to those. I'll go out and find them and include the link so that it makes it easy for people to shop.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we'll take it from there. So, Patricia, do you have another book is waiting in the wings, or an idea for one that you're gonna go off on?
I have been very much thinking about it. Right at this moment, though, John, I would like to see if there's a way that I can spend some of my time and effort with trying to get the book on narcissism
Right.
out to as many people as possible. But I do believe that there is at least another book in me,
Another
if
book,
not more.
lurking in there. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, the concepts of the ideas are kicking around in the back of your head. I can understand that.
yes, they are. And I
Okay.
think that, as I said, there's many people out there that are writing very wonderful books that are packed full of really great information on
Mhm.
all sorts of subjects. Um, Farrow them out, because if you need something, there's someone out there that has been through it, that has put their pen to paper. Um, and I'm not talking about many of these people that are out there trying to sell ebooks that are, AI generated and so forth.
Mhm.
I have nothing against AI, and
Mhm.
I definitely end up using it for information. I don't use it to write my books, but I have used it to get research and information from it. Uh, but the people that are out there that have been through whatever the subject might be that you are interested in, ferret them out, because there's a lot of wonderful, great books out there that you can truly learn whatever it is that you'd like to know.
Okay. Well, Patricia, thank you so much for your time tonight.
No,
Um,
thank you, John. It's
all
really been a
righty.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Hang on for a minute, okay?
Yes, absolutely. I'll
All
do.
righty. Good night, everyone. Then thanks for watching.